This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Now we learn more about communication skills and farmland with Kyle Bauer and Mykel Taylor.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer visiting with Professor Mykel Taylor. She's with the Ag Econ Department at Kansas State University. The title of your talk today was of interest to me, and I'm going to let you say it, but then tell us what that actually means.
Well, the title of my talk was The Value of Social Capital in Farmland Leasing Relationships. And what it means is we're studying how the interactions between farmers and landowners affect their leasing negotiations and ultimately how much is being paid for that land. So we're really looking at the relationships and the trust that they build between each other and how they look at each other's actions and trying to figure out, how those things affect the outcomes.
What are the keys to trust?
Well, the biggest key is communication, and that's the one that I try to emphasize as much as possible in my extension program is communication helps us get over a lot of the hurdles that are affected by in farmland leasing. For example, communicating about conservation practices is one area that we are looking at. Just trying to see whether or not they're having conversations about the types of conservation practices that are being used and who is maybe paying for those and who's benefiting from those and how they approach that particular topic.
A lot of people go into farming because they like to be alone in a field by themselves. Do you find that communications is a stumbling block for a lot of farmers?
Well, and I also sometimes make fun of my farmers because they're men and I'm married to a man, and that becomes kind of interesting, to talk to them about communicating with their landowners. But you're right, they're not necessarily people persons. And so what we talk about is how can you communicate with your landowner and what do different landowners need? Some of them need phone calls. Some of them are happy with a text. Others are going to be interested in a newsletter, while some others will want to follow you on Facebook. And you really have to be willing to find out what those different levels of communication are that you're going to get from each of, or that you're going to give to each of those landowners in order to optimize that relationship.
Well, and some things are important to one person and they're not important to another, but about the only way to know is to ask them.
Oh, absolutely. If we're talking to each other, and it's more than once a year when we send the rent check, we have to be talking to them throughout the year, keeping them apprised of what's going on with their crop. That's really important to people. It's really important to them knowing what's going on. So even just taking a picture of the crop and sending it to them so that they have some idea of what's going on is helpful.
Farmers have gotten, so they have more and more consultants, more and more people on their team, if you will. Can they delegate this out to someone in their organization?
It's possible to do that, but I think you want to keep in mind that a lot of landowners have a very strong attachment to their land. In half the cases, it's inherited ground, so it has a family connection, and that means that they're going to want to know the farmer themselves, and they're going to want to know how they're taking care of it. So I think while you can delegate certain activities, I think there's still a level of interaction that's going to be important to come straight from the farmer.
We're visiting with Professor Mykel Taylor with Kansas State University. This is Kyle Bauer. Back to you, Jamie.
Thanks, Kyle. Come back after the break for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com. Valley Vet Supply.